Chapter 1, The Midnight Ghost, March 8, 2014. A date that changed the history of aviation forever. In today's modern world, where satellites monitor every movement, GPS determines our routes, and thousands of aircraft are constantly flying through the skies, a 250-ton Boeing 777 carrying 239 living human beings simply cannot vanish. And yet MH370 made the impossible possible. This is not just the story of a missing airplane. It is the tale of 40 minutes that left the world's most brilliant scientists and investigators utterly baffled. It was midnight. Kuala Lumpur International Airport was alive with its usual bustle. Flight MH370 was preparing to depart for Beijing. For the 227 passengers on board, it was just another routine journey. Among them were 153 Chinese nationals, including a group of world-renowned calligraphers, young couples returning to their destination, and families heading back after vacations. No one could have imagined that they were boarding the final flight of their lives. Inside the cockpit were two highly skilled professionals. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, 53 years old with over 18,000 hours of flying experience, was considered a legend at Malaysia Airlines. Beside him was 27-year-old First Officer Farooq Abdul Hamid, who was in the final stages of his training. Everything was perfect. The weather was clear. The aircraft was in excellent condition and one of the safest planes ever built. The Boeing 777 was ready for takeoff. At 12:41 a.m., the Rolls-Royce engines roared to life and MH370 lifted off the runway. For the first 38 minutes, everything went exactly as planned. The aircraft reached its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. Passengers were settled comfortably in their seats, some watching movies, others preparing to drift into sleep. At 1:19 a.m., the aircraft reached the boundary of Malaysian airspace. From here, control was to be handed over to Vietnam's air traffic control. This was a completely routine procedure in aviation, known as a handover. The Kuala Lumpur radar controller radioed, "Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. "Good night," Captain Zahari replied in a calm, professional voice. "Good night, Malaysian 370. These were the last words ever heard from the aircraft. No distress call, no mayday. No mention of any problem, just a cool, professional good night. But exactly 2 minutes later, the greatest mystery of the century was about to begin. At 1:21 a.m., the impossible happened. Every commercial aircraft is equipped with a transponder, a device that tells radar the plane's position, altitude, and speed. At 1:21:13, MH370's transponder was switched off. This was not a technical failure. According to investigators, it was manually turned off from inside the cockpit. At the same moment, the aircraft's ACARS communication system also fell silent. To controllers in Kuala Lumpur and Ho Chi Minh City, MH370 suddenly vanished from the map of the world. Flying at 500 miles per hour over the South China Sea, the massive aircraft had become a ghost plane. But the true terror was yet to come. While civilian controllers were in confusion, military radar detected something shocking. MH370 had not crashed. Instead, it made a sharp, aggressive turn. The aircraft changed course and headed back toward the Malaysian peninsula. This did not look like an accident. It looked like the deliberate action of an expert pilot trying to avoid radar detection. The plane passed over Penang, Captain Zahari's hometown. Some believe this was his final salute to the city. The aircraft then turned toward the Strait of Malacca and once again changed course, heading out toward the Andaman Sea. By now it had left radar coverage, but it continued flying. The question remains, what was happening inside the cockpit at that moment? Was there a struggle? Had the plane been hijacked? Or was one of the pilots deliberately guiding the aircraft toward a mysterious destination? Flight MH370 was now flying through the darkness of night on a journey with no trace left behind. A journey that would continue for the next 7 hours, while the world slept and 239 people traveled along an unknown path between life and death. Chapter 2, The 7-Hour Ghost Flight. When the last trace of MH370 disappeared from Malaysian military radar, the world assumed the aircraft had crashed. But the truth was far stranger and far more terrifying. While controllers on the ground desperately tried to make contact on every possible frequency, MH370 was still flying through the skies as a ghost plane. The question was, if the transponder was off and radar was silent, how did we know the aircraft was still airborne? This is where Inmarsat, a British satellite company, enters the story. Hours after the aircraft vanished, they discovered something that completely changed the direction of the investigation. Although the plane's main communication systems were disabled, an automatic system continued sending a ping to a satellite every hour, like the final breaths of a dying person. These pings proved that MH370 continued flying for 7 hours after it disappeared from radar. Imagine it. 239 people on board an aircraft flying thousands of feet above the ocean in the darkness of night. But what was happening inside the cabin during that time? This is where the ghost flight theory begins. Aviation experts believe that a hypoxia event may have occurred, meaning the oxygen supply inside the aircraft was suddenly lost. When oxygen levels drop, the human brain stops functioning properly. People become drowsy, fall asleep, and never wake up. If this happened, the passengers and pilots of MH370 may have died within the first 2 hours of flight. For the next 5 hours, the aircraft would have continued on autopilot, becoming a flying graveyard heading toward the southern Indian Ocean. But another theory is even more disturbing. Some experts suggest that the hypoxia was not accidental, but deliberately caused. Someone in the cockpit may have depressurized the cabin on purpose, rendering the passengers and crew unconscious, while that person had access to an oxygen mask. The thought alone is chilling, that a single individual could send 238 innocent people into eternal sleep while guiding the aircraft toward its final destination. Satellite data showed that the plane followed an arc, a long path leading directly toward one of the most remote regions on Earth, the southern Indian Ocean. There is no land there, no islands, only vast, dark, and terrifying waters. At 8:19 a.m., the satellite recorded the final partial ping. This was the moment when MH370's fuel was exhausted. The engines fell silent, the autopilot disengaged, and the massive Boeing 777 suddenly became a rapidly falling mass of metal. It is believed the aircraft struck the ocean surface at extremely high speed. Upon impact, it shattered into thousands of pieces and was buried forever in the depths of the sea. But when the world woke up that morning, it knew nothing of this horrifying journey. At Beijing Airport, families were waiting for their loved ones. The delayed sign turned into canceled, and then began the most expensive and complex search operation in aviation history. Chapter 3: The Search for the Ghost. When the world realized that MH370 had not crashed immediately but had instead changed course toward an unknown destination, the largest manhunt in history began. From the South China Sea to the Indian Ocean, thousands of square miles were searched. But the depths of the ocean do not give up their secrets easily. In the first few weeks, the eyes of the entire world were fixed on floating debris on the ocean's surface. Ships and aircraft from 26 countries worked day and night. Every floating object, every suspicious piece of debris was investigated. Yet each time the result was zero. MH370 had vanished as if it had never existed. The real investigation, however, had to take place far below the surface. The southern Indian Ocean is one of the deepest and most remote regions on Earth, with depths ranging from 4 to 6 kilometers. The seabed there has been explored even less than the surface of Mars. Underwater drones like Bluefin 21 and ships such as Go Phoenix began mapping the ocean floor. They discovered mountains and trenches never seen by humans before, but the black box of MH370 was nowhere to be found. In 2015, a year after the disappearance, a first glimmer of hope appeared. Near the coast of Africa on Reunion Island, a piece of an aircraft wing known as a flaperon was found. When experts checked its serial number, the world was stunned. It belonged to MH370. This single piece proved two things. First, the aircraft had indeed crashed in the southern Indian Ocean. Second, ocean currents had carried the debris thousands of miles all the way to Africa. After this discovery, more than 30 additional fragments were found along the coasts of Mauritius, Madagascar, and Tanzania. However, something strange emerged. The damage patterns on these pieces suggested that when the aircraft hit the water, its flaps were retracted. According to aviation experts, if a pilot were attempting an emergency landing, the flaps would have been extended. This meant that the aircraft was either flying on autopilot and plunged straight down after running out of fuel, or someone had deliberately crashed it into the ocean at extremely high speed. Investigator Blaine Gibson, who personally funded expeditions to search for the debris, reported that some fragments appeared to be burned. But since the main wreckage and the black box were never recovered, all of this remained speculation. With each passing day, the hope of the passengers' families faded. For them, this was not just the loss of a machine, it was the permanent loss of their children, parents, and life partners. The mystery was no longer merely technical, it had become a human tragedy unfolding live on screens across the world. Chapter 4: The Shadow in the Cockpit. After the disappearance of MH370, intelligence agencies around the world asked one central question: if there was no technical failure on the aircraft, then who forced it to change its course? As the investigation moved away from the passengers and into the cockpit, attention inevitably focused on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. During the investigation, the captain's personal flight simulator was seized from his home. When the FBI recovered its data, a revelation emerged that shook the world. Weeks before the disappearance, the captain had flown a route on his simulator that closely matched the path MH370 later took, an endless flight toward the southern Indian Ocean. Was this merely a coincidence, or was Zahari silently planning something? However, his friends and family strongly rejected this idea. They argued that a pilot who loved flying so deeply could never take the lives of 238 people. From here, conspiracy theories were born. Some claimed the aircraft had been hacked and taken over by remote control. Others believed the plane was carrying secret technology or sensitive cargo that someone did not want to reach Beijing. And so it was disappeared mid-route. Another theory suggested the aircraft was heading toward Diego Garcia, a U.S. military base, and was shot down there. The reality, however, is that even after 12 years, there is still no solid evidence. In its final report released in 2018, the Malaysian government stated, "We cannot determine with any certainty the reasons for the disappearance." Officially, the case remains unsolved. In the darkness of the southern Indian Ocean, 4 kilometers below the surface, MH370 still lies buried. Perhaps its black box battery has long since died. Perhaps its wreckage is hidden beneath layers of ocean sediment. But for the families who are still waiting for their loved ones, this mystery will never truly end. Every year on March 8th, they light candles and ask the same haunting question: where is MH370? Until the wreckage is fully found, MH370 will remain the world's greatest aviation mystery, a flight that began but never truly ended. Do you believe the pilot was responsible, or was it something else? Let me know in the comments.